Peace and long life. Welcome to my new Trekisode. It is Stardate 202101.22. And this morning, one of the fan favorites and classic episodes of all time, Mudd's Women. Harcourt Fenton Mudd. The guy is legendary. He's probably the second favorite original series villain after Khan, but that's mainly because Khan got to be in the Wrath of Khan, in my humble opinion. Harry Mudd is the only guy that got to be in 2 episodes of the original series. He was important enough that he appeared a 3rd time in the animated series, and he's sort of the go-to guy whenever anyone's trying to dredge up that old canon. They saw him in Star Trek STD, which will hereafter try not to be named, and Star Trek Aurora. If you have not seen the fan-based episodes of Star Trek Aurora, go watch them right now. I watch them frequently. Very good. They only got 2 animated episodes in before the restrictions went on, but Star Trek Aurora. So Harry Mudd is all over the Trekverse. He's sort of the go-to guy. Everybody loves him. Everybody loves to hate him. He's just fabulous. Roger Carmel does a great job. Now, what's interesting about Mudd's Women is you have on the surface a very conventional sort of story. This will be copied, the pattern of it, by Star Trek Enterprise later. Many maybe didn't catch that when 3 Orion women come on and seduce the crew. Very much an homage to Mudd's Women. The 3 women are brought on board after Captain Kirk tries to rescue their ship while they're fleeing from him into an asteroid field. And of course, we find out that ever the con man and charlatan, Harry Mudd, is using a drug called the Venus drug that helps you up and makes you sexier in order to essentially sell these women to be the wives of lonely settlers, finding women that were lonely themselves and certainly not attractive or as attractive in their natural state, helping them up on drugs to deliver them to some rich, in the end, as he says, when they encounter their dilithium miners, right? Overworked, rich dilithium miners. Now, it's sort of a neat story. We find out that there's still an expectation that women cook or that women's cooking is better, which is really interesting in view of what has happened culturally since that episode was made. But it really does drive home the idea of the relationship between the sexes and how they complement one another. And there's you could do episodes about that. But what I thought was interesting, being as this is, I think, the first time in my life I'm watching them in the order that they aired, and I'm watching them intentionally like that, because growing up I saw them all randomly being rerun and repeated, and they only did the most popular episodes, and then they showed them more often than the others. I never had a sense of the continuity, as it were, because it was episodic TV. It was really sort of not all that noticeable, except as I got older, you could tell those uniforms from Where No Man Has Gone Before and so on, and Uhura wearing gold randomly instead of red. Watching them in order, you get the better sense of how it developed. And Mudd's Women is a perfect example. So they pick up Harry Mudd. He's in the turbo lift with Mr. Spock. He explains to the women that his type are able to control and switch on and off their emotions and their attractions. But what Mudd says, he says to Mr. Spock, "You're part Vulcanian, aren't you?" Now, there's 2 things about that. We do hear early on the preferred term is Vulcanian. They've not settled on using the term Vulcan to describe people from Vulcan. And after all, why should they? People from Earth aren't called Earth. They might be called Earthers or humans or Terrans, any number of things. Why are Vulcans called Vulcan after the Vulcan that they come from? He's a Vulcanian early on. But not only this, but we have not yet settled on Spock's identity in that manner. It's pretty obvious that Harry Mudd has seen Vulcanians before, and he has seen mixed Vulcanians before. Enough so that whatever 100% pure Vulcanian looks like, he's able to identify right away that Mr. Spock is only part Vulcanian. And of course, he doesn't say half. I mean, how would he know? But if we remember, Spock didn't say that either. In Where No Man Has Gone Before, playing chess with Captain Kirk and losing, and he comments, perhaps because one of my ancestors married an Earth woman. And Kirk says, terrible, having bad blood like that. So now, very early on in the series, we haven't even established, and I don't think we will until we meet Spock's parents, that they decide that she should be human. We only know that he's distantly somehow got some Terran Earther human in him, and we get the idea. Of course, later on we get the idea. We're essentially told he's very unique. He might be the only one, at least in his time frame. Especially of the original series, he might be the only half human, half Vulcan, and that seems to be, as it weaves on later through later canon and newer stuff we might not consider canon, we get that idea. Spock's the first one, and yet Harry Mudd's seen them, and again is able to pick up that he's only part. So presumably they hadn't decided yet what 100% pure Vulcanians look like. That would be interesting to have seen, and they hadn't really solved that whole thing with, it wasn't settled canon, as we would say, when they're first putting these episodes together. But Harry Mudd is a fabulous character. I love the way it works out in the end. They've got one of the greatest lines from those early Star Treks about there being only one kind of woman or man, for that matter. You either believe in yourself or you don't. And I love that moment where Harry Mudd and Kirk are sort of having this shared philosophy moment. It really would have been great to see Harry Mudd come back in the movies. I know there was some buzz about it. They wanted Khan because he was more ruthless and they needed action. And by the time they were getting to like Star Trek 4, where they were ready to do a little comedy relief, Roger Carmel was gone. And trying to recast that would have been, I mean, that just doesn't work. It doesn't work in STD. Why would we think it worked? It only works in animation when you can draw him and maybe fake his voice well enough. So anyway, I am watching them in order. That's my brief synopsis. The interesting parts of Mudd's women, which by the way, Uhura is still in gold. I referenced that earlier in this episode. And seeing how these things are developing going forward, and I'll be commenting more on that, I think, because so many other things have been overdone. So blessings on your day, or rather, live long and prosper, and we will see you again soon.
There's only one kind of woman.
Or man, for that matter.
You either believe in yourself, or you don't.